I'm Donnie Shimamoto, the Inspiration Architect for the Center for Accounting Transformation, and I would like to welcome you to Know How Korner, a podcast that will take a deeper dive into understanding the current state of the accounting profession and introduce you to innovative thinkers with advanced insight into how we can work together to create tools and resources that enable transformation and improve the world. The Center for Accounting Transformation recently undertook a research study on the diversity, equity, and inclusion journeys of accountants and their respective organizations. With the results of the survey being released, I had the opportunity to sit down with Kimberly Ellison-Taylor, CPA and CGMA, and the CTO of KET Solutions to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, what know-how people need about the DEI journey of accounting professionals, and how DEI initiatives can help us create more workable solutions. With the release of our research, I wanted to bring this recording back out into the light because we still have much ways to go. And I hope that as a result of listening to this interview with Kimberly, that you'll be inspired to come and download our research report and utilize some of our findings to help accelerate the adoption of DE&I practices. Here's the recording. All right. Hey, everyone. This summer, the Center for Accounting Transformation is conducting a diversity, equity, and inclusion research study on organizations' DE&I journeys. We've seen a lot of research on the positive effects of DE&I initiatives on the workplace, but with progress still seeming to be lacking, we wanted to really drive deeper into the role of the accounting profession in facilitating the DEI journey. So with this research, we believe that our results are really going to help us, one, understand where we are as a profession, two, enable us to collaborate with state societies, CPA firm association, consultants, and other experts, and three, really create the tools. This is probably the most important piece. It's going to allow us to really help create the tools and resources or identify what's needed to support accounting firms and organizations, so people that are in CFO and controller roles, with really implementing these DE&I strategies. So to help us understand the current state of DEI and the role that the accounting profession can play, I'm really pleased that we're speaking today with Kimberly Ellison-Taylor, CPA, CGMA. Kimberly is the CTO of KET Solutions. She's also a former chair of the AICPA and also the current chair of the AICPA's National Commission on Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Thank you so much, Kimberly, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited because, I think you and I are two of probably the most visible minorities in a lot of what's going on. And so for you and me to be leading this, I'm actually getting goosebumps right now, just kind of thinking about us being able to push this forward. A lot of what we want to do on kind of this quick video snippet that we're doing today is to just help people. I don't want to reiterate a lot of what is already out there. I really kind of want to focus on what's either changed or what is the bigger picture we need to look at, but what's going to resonate more on why we're doing this research. So let me start first with asking you, when people say DEI, many people think of gender or race, but DEI really encompasses more than that. So what can you tell us a little more about the broader picture of DEI and what is the importance of looking at this whole picture of diversity?
I think that's an excellent place to start, Donnie. And let me just say thank you again for having me. I think you're right when you say we are very visible. I'm sure there are others, but I know we are very visible in the accounting profession. So when I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I really focus a lot more on inclusion because I think that's what's going to actually help us move the ball forward in a more sustainable, I would say, intentional way. And so that means looking at the broad spectrum of inclusion characteristics. And so age, gender, and race, that's just only a small subset when you consider there could be different abilities, Certainly there's neurodiversity. We have different geographies. We have people that grew up in different places, and we have people who are bringing those experiences, those life choices and experiences to their engagements and in interactions with their team members, clients, and also business partners. People are in the military. People actually have different socioeconomic status. They're different ages in the environment, and their comfort level with technology is different. So when you think about it that way, we are all pretty diverse, and our intersectionality is diverse across that spectrum as well, especially when you take into account LGBTQIA plus team members who are working with us and sometimes hidden in plain sight. And so it's important to make sure that everyone recognizes we are not trying to break the needle. We just want to turn the dial so that we have a more cohesive, collaborative environment where people feel a sense of belonging, regardless of where you sit across that full spectrum. And everyone along on that journey means exactly that. Everyone on this journey.
I love that you brought the concept of belonging into this. That has actually resonated with me personally for a lot of things, because I feel there's definitely places where I've been where I feel like I just don't quite belong here. You know, so that I think, and we'll probably have to build on that one some more later. But I do want to call it, you mentioned diversity and inclusion, which originally we saw that D&I kind of up there, but equity was added into that. So can you talk to us about the importance of equity?
Equity is important, Donnie, and I'm so glad when, over the years, it was just diversity. Then it was diversity and inclusion. Now it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now I'm hearing diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. But let's just take the equity piece. I think that for some of our team members, we hear equity and we think equal, when it's really not the same thing at all. Equity simply means providing people the resources that they need individually, whatever they need in order to be the best version of themselves. And that could be more time learning about practice management, could be more time learning about SOC 1, SOC 2, could be if they're in consulting or any of the advisory functions, sending them to classes or conferences to learn about some pending regulation. It's what do people need in order to be successful? And I think we get confused by equality and equity when it's really no different than, as a mom of two sons, I have a now 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, soon to be 20. One was really good at math, one was really good at English. Would I do and send both of them to tutoring for the topic that they really were great in? No. It's really adapting the resources that they need to fit their path forward. And I think if we think about it like that in the work environment, I think it's a little less daunting and a little less confusing.
I love that example. I myself have actually struggled a little bit trying to understand equity, but the way that you just described it, that does make sense, that we're really helping people shore up some of the areas where they need help. And this is not a blanket thing that we can do. This is really looking at individuals, and it comes back to the diversity examples that you gave. It's looking at the individual and what does the individual really need.
Well, I think, Donnie, it's because we spend a lot of time thinking, I get one, you get one. I get one, you get one. When in all actuality, my contact lens prescription, thank goodness for laser eye surgery, was, let's say, negative 550. Yes, I really couldn't see. So should I just pass out contact lens prescriptions to everyone of negative 550 because I get one and you get one? Or do I give you the prescription for the vision that you have? And I think when you think about it and you just break that down, you're like, you know what? Give her negative 550 contact lens subscription. I'll get the +2. It really is tailored to the individual. And I think we just spend a lot of time just thinking we're going to do one size fits all. And in this environment, one size does not fit all.
Now that's also start to sound like a lot of work. And so have we seen, can you give us examples of how this actually positively impacts an organization? Or is this just kind of like we think it's going to help us?
Well, I'm the business case, Donnie. I am the business case. I have been so vulnerable sharing my examples, my lessons learned, my disappointments. You know this story all too well. I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore. So I have a social economic beginning that could have just changed my whole path forward. I went to a school that did not have an accounting program. I went to a school that had economics. I wanted to major in something that was going to put me closer to accounting. I thought at the time it was information systems. So when I think about my career path, it's a sum of differences that along the way, there have been people who actually helped me. And they helped me. They didn't apply the 50,000 people in the organization approach. They actually said, she grew up in the inner city of Baltimore. She has a different social economic background. She didn't go to a school that majored in accounting. Let me start calculating a success plan that works for Kimberly. And organizations that do that in general, not just for minorities, for everybody, I think will have greater retention and they'll have a greater culture survey result than if they didn't. Now, for the individuals that would say, well, Kimberly, how does that scale? No, I don't expect the one leader to do it, but I expect the leader to model that behavior and ensure that the next level down of their middle management team models it and implements it. And then the next level down implements it and models it. Because if it cascades throughout the organization, it scales. It does not scale if it's 3 people in HR, 2 people who have been assigned diversity, and the one CEO traveling the country trying to talk about it is doing it on their own. Of course, it doesn't scale. But if it is pervasive across the organization, then we can make some progress.
You actually answered one of my questions, which was going to be, isn't this an HR thing? Why are we as accountants talking about this? And I totally agree with you, because that, I think, is that cascade and that embedding throughout the organization and the ability to measure that that's actually occurring. One of the analogies I often use is that this is not just this HR thing. This is an actual control, to use our accounting language. This is a control that we embed throughout the organization to look at how do we help everyone be more successful, that to stop that risk of failure because of some reason with diversity or inclusion, however someone might want to look at that. So if we kind of flip that and say, hey, this is something that we as accountants want to make sure is effectively working throughout the entire organization. Now here's something where we can, if we think of this as a control, we can start to use a lot of what we already know to measure the impact, measure the operating look at what's right effectiveness, look at what's happening. And now we can help HR, because it's not something that we do by ourselves, but we can work and collaborate with HR to really embed this throughout an organization.
Well, I ditto. You nailed it. Everything that I would say. The only other thing I would add, Donnie, is people are a critical resource inside an organization. While the HR team has been delegated the responsibility of looking across the talent management, spectrum, you can't delegate accountability. The leader at the top of the organization, I don't care who they are, they have responsibility for the people. They are accountable. They have entrusted the HR team with the administrative paperwork and also ensuring that the processes actually get performed and executed. But they are vested stakeholders. And what happens to people? We can't get our work done without people. Now, you have a technology background, you work in transformation, I do as well. We know that technology is a strategic enabler, but it is not replacing people, and certainly not in the short term. It's going to still be people who are getting a lot of this work done. And so because it's such a critical resource inside our environments, that's why we're vested. Who's doing the engagements? Who's going to go out and do the taxes? Who's talking to clients and high net worth individuals? Who's actually helping in healthcare, oil and gas, manufacturing, financial services? People. So if they think if someone thinks we don't have any purview into the people space, I don't think they could be more wrong about having that perspective.
Completely agree. And for the people that don't know, you work primarily with large organizations and boards. I work with
Mhm.
small mid-market. So we're both seeing this regardless of the size of organization that we're working with. What do you think? You mentioned that it's something that the leaders, and it needs to be something that the executives are looking at. So if we come back a little bit towards our profession, what do you think CPA firm partners or finance leaders should be doing right now to garner their organization's buy-in or interest in these DE&I initiatives?
I think it's going to be uncomfortable, but we have to treat it like we treat any other initiative. When revenue recognition was coming out, when we are looking at scope 1, 2, and 3 disclosures that the SEC is now accepting comments for, if we were going to do a merger and acquisition, we're going into a new, service area, there's some rigor, there's some discipline, there's some accountability. We have half done, in many cases, DE&I. We've got 2 people, not enough money, not the visibility, little accountability, and no one really on deck to make sure that it's happening all the way through the organization. We would not do any other initiative in the haphazard fashion that in many cases I've seen DE&I rolled out inside organizations. There's no wonder. I'm really not that surprised, Donnie, that in some cases we have not made the success that we would have liked because we let people opt in and out. What other initiative that's important to the longevity of the firm do we just let people opt in and out of and decide whether or not they're going to go or not without any accountability for doing it or not? This is not treated the same strategic way that other initiatives are. And until we be uncomfortable and do what's necessary, we're going to have this vicious cycle of having this conversation over and over and over again.
Oh, that's really powerful. I never thought of it that way, but you're completely right. We need to treat this the way we treat all others, which is ensuring that it really is adopted enterprise-wide, company-wide.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if there's someone that is not at that management level? Are there things that staff or middle managers should be doing to try and affect this role or this change or this adoption?
Absolutely. I think inclusion is everyone's responsibility. So you could just get up today and say, you know what? I'm going to be an ally everywhere, all the time, not only at work, everywhere. Because believe it or not, you can't say I'm going to be ally at work and then in a grocery store you're doing bad things, in the Central Park you're doing bad things, out in your community you're doing bad things. This is an area where your true colors show. Everywhere you engage and interact with people, it's what you say and it's what you do when people are looking and when they're not. And when you decide, I'm going to be an ally, I'm going to be a good person, you really try to do it. And I'll give you an example. And I'm just giving an example of things that I do in my day. So I'm in the airport and I get pretty sizable bag allowance, but I have bags inside my bag in case I ever need to have a separate bag and carry it on. I'm listening out of this ear to the young man on the other side of me, and the person at the counter is saying, "Sir, you're 5 pounds over." And it's going to be something like $150 for this bag. And I'm thinking to myself, that is outrageous. I reach in my bag and I hand the gentleman my bag. So it was like a reusable bag that I had gotten from some conference. And I was like, listen, to save you the $150, I'm sure this isn't pretty and it's not elegant, but I'm happy to give you this bag if you're willing to take it. And so that's the kind of thing, to just be nice to when you're going through, let's say, for instance, you're going through getting through the security and someone's putting, their stuff on, the lady in front of you, she's got a kid in a stroller, she's got a kid attached to her, and she's got the Cadillac stroller. Many of us who are parents know what the Cadillac stroller looks like.
Yes.
I'm like, ma'am, what can I do to help you? Now, I know the kids aren't going to come because, kids should be leery of strangers, but I can fold this Cadillac stroller and put it on the belt for you and then get it on the other side because you got the kid crying at your leg. You got the baby you got to hold. Just be nice everywhere to everyone. It's not your business who they love. It's not your business what they look like. Just be nice. How old they are, how young they are, be nice. I have done that consistently. I'm on the plane. I ordered the salmon. The people in front of me are, vegetarians. They can't eat the food, but they'll eat salmon because I guess they eat fish. And so they're having a fit because they didn't have any more of whatever this dish was. I called the flight attendant back to me and I said, ma'am, give them mine because I can eat the other one because, I eat meat. It doesn't matter to me. And she was like, thank you so much. Do you know they didn't even say thank you?
Wow.
But you don't do it for people to say thank you or not. When you decide you're going to be an ally, it starts with being a good person, starts with being nice to people. And whether they say yes or no, or whether they say thank you or not, you do it because it's the right thing to do. And if every person, back to your question, decided they were going to do that, someone left their personal tax information on a copier, how many seconds would it take for you to put it in an envelope and then put it on their desk? They're in the meeting. They're like, Donnie this, Donnie that. Look around, Donnie's not in the meeting. I'm texting you, Donnie, your name has been mentioned 3 times in this meeting. Did you forget the meeting? And then you might have time to jump on the call. We can just be good people. Be nice. And I think that's what it's about. And I wrote an article for the MACPA on allyship starts with being a good person. And so take a look at that, Donnie. Let me know what you think. But I just wanted to give some real life, everyday examples of how this could show up. And then when you're reflecting it, even if people don't appreciate it, believe me when I tell you that if every person did it, it would start to create this culture of empowered team members where allyship and inclusion is a core part of how people engage with one another.
So that is so powerful. In the end, to me, when I'm hearing you too, our URL is improvetheworld.net. And that's why I chose that. It's like if we all start to behave and do more of what we're doing, we really will improve the world. It's not just this little thing. And your airport stories actually resonate with me too, because one of the things that I do is when I'm at the gate, I always look to see if there's like a senior citizen or somebody that can't board early because I have early boarding, and I've traveled with my grandparents. I know how they struggle, and if there's one by themselves, because I can bring one person on, I usually am like, hey, come on early with me. You'll have more time to get settled.
That's very nice.
And I've always felt like, it's just this weird thing that I do, and I would never have talked about it. But hearing you start to talk about it, I'm like, it's these simple things that are just nice, and you don't expect thanks or whatever.
Nope.
And you're just doing it. Because I do the meal. I've done the same thing on the meal thing too. So, part of what we're trying to do in the research, I'm glad you raised a lot of these things and gave a lot of ideas, is we're trying to help, help people identify where they are in their whole DE&I journey, whether it's a person or an organization. And the other thing that we're trying to do is for the different stages across the journey, identify how can we better help people. And so you raised a lot of great ideas. But the reason we want people to participate in this research is that it helps us create more of a framework and more of a systematic way for us to drive this change. So Kimberly, I really thank you again so much for helping us to understand DE&I and how this has been evolving. And I think even more importantly, hopefully between the examples you and I share, accountants are really going to see, whether you're in a firm or whether you're in a finance department, that we really are essential in driving these efforts forward. So to all of you that are out there, I really hope that you'll take the time to participate in our research survey, or if you're seeing this after you already completed it, please go and grab the report and figure out how can you play a different role, or what role can you play in helping to move this forward, because this is really going to take all of us, and together, as Kimberly's indicated, being better people, we can really start to drive and improve the world. So to learn more about this research, please visit us at improvetheworld.net/DEI-research. Thank you again, Kimberly, and thanks to everyone out there. I hope you will jump in and help us with our research. I hope you enjoyed that discussion that I just had with Kimberly about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how we still have a ways to go in our profession. I feel like we're ahead of other professions as we really look at what's happening here, but there's still much work to do. Again, please come to our website at www.improvetheworld.net/DEI-research to take a look at the research that we have, download our reports, and participate in the survey if you haven't taken it yet. The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a framework for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply the innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out how the center resources can help you and your team members at www.improvetheworld.net. Thanks again, and I hope you join us for another Know-How Corner.